For more, we can go now to Richard Johnson, a lecturer in US politics at Queen Mary University in London. Thank you for joining us on France 24. And we're all watching the vote count very, very closely, aren't we, as it goes on for a fourth day. But Joe Biden is certainly pulling ahead in Pennsylvania. If he wins that state, of course, he will be declared the 46th president of the United States. On the other hand, Trump's tweets have slowed down a bit. Do you think reality might be setting in for Donald Trump at this stage?
I think barring some kind of surprise, it looks very difficult to see how President Trump can overturn Joe Biden's leads. Even in Pennsylvania, where I think he potentially has his strongest legal challenge, which relates to the late postal votes. There's a US Supreme Court challenge that is pending there. Even if they won that case in the US Supreme Court, it seems very likely that there are not enough late postal votes to overturn the nearly 30,000 vote margin that Joe Biden now has secured in Pennsylvania. And as you said, if Biden wins Pennsylvania, then this is all over.
And of course, none of the opinion polls, the media outlets and all the rest of it predicted that this race would be quite so close. You had Joe Biden polling way ahead of Donald Trump in these battleground states. How did they get it so wrong?
I think one of the hypotheses that I'm most inclined to is what we call a differential non-response bias. And that means that when the supporters of one candidate are less likely to even engage in taking a poll to begin with. So a lot of people have talked about shy Trumpers and this idea of Trump supporters lying to pollsters out of a kind of social desirability bias. I think that's less likely than the idea that Trump voters may be less inclined to even participate in a poll. If someone rings up and says, I'm from X media outlet or Y newspaper or Z university, given what we know about Trump supporters' low levels of trust in these institutions, you could imagine that there would be a skew in those Trump voters being less likely to even engage in the polls. And I do wonder if that is what is attributed, that can be attributed to the modest skew towards Joe Biden in the polls in the battleground states.
And of course, all eyes are on the presidential race, but congressional races are also happening at the moment. That won't be finalized until January when there's a runoff vote in Georgia. But it looks like the Republicans might hang on to the Senate. Does that mean Joe Biden is going to be very, very much held back in what he tries to do as a president?
It will constrain him. His first challenge will be actually to fill his own cabinet. The Senate has to give approval to any presidential executive branch appointments. And so this is the first time since the presidency of George H.W. Bush in 1989 that the incoming president doesn't have the support of the Senate. And that was a very different time when there was a higher level of bipartisanship. So if the Republicans really wanted to be obstinate, they could make it very difficult for Joe Biden even to fill his own cabinet. Now, I'm not sure that necessarily will be the case, but what this does mean is that I think it limits who Biden can put in his cabinet, and I think it makes it very difficult for Biden to put people of the left of the Democratic Party in his administration because he'll be relying on one or two moderate Republicans to help him get those votes over the line.
Richard Johnson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, to other news now, and the French Prime Minister